Hello and welcome to Trinity Talk Live, water cooler conversation from a Christian perspective. I am Ken Coughlin. Thank you very much for joining us as we're closing out the month of February today. We opened up the month of February talking about love, so it only seems appropriate, given a certain song lyric, that we should close out the month talking about marriage. Go ahead, who's going to sing it? This is where we insert the cricket sound effect. Love and marriage. Come on. Thank you. No, we're not doing musical performances today.
No,
I don't sing.
not that song.
So we're talking about marriage today, and we have our panel of, I was told, not marriage experts. How about just panel of married people up here today with various different life experiences and a lot of wisdom to pass on. So that's what we're hoping to do over the course of the next 20 minutes or so. So what I'm going to do first of all is we're going to let everybody know who you are, because we've got some familiar faces here, some not so familiar faces here. So start right here close to me with this couple immediately to my right. Tell us who you are and one interesting thing about you as a couple.
My name is Bill Rehrig, and this is my current only wife, Tony.
Did you have another wife at some point in the past at the same time as her?
No, I said only.
Well, you said your current only wife, which implies that at some past she wasn't your only wife.
Well, no, one's enough. Interesting thing about ourselves. Well, Tony has a big job because I have a background as a historian. So I've collected a lot of documents, and she does an awesome job of keeping the house straight in spite of my clutter.
That's an accomplishment.
I'm Tony Rehrig, and I am his current wife, and I will be your last wife. So we've been married 52 years.
Wow. Congratulations.
Together. Yes.
Seems like a day and a half.
All right. So, next.
So my name is Bill Braun, my wife Dee. We've been married for coming up on 18 years, but been together for, about 22?
20-some.
20-something, yeah.
And I'm Dee Braun, and as Bill said, we're coming up on almost 18 years of marriage.
That's your interesting tidbit?
We did meet in one of my line dance classes that I was giving at Essex Community College.
Yes, Bill is a DJ. He's an awesome DJ. You teach, how many classes do you teach now?
I teach currently 2 nights a week, Mondays and Thursdays.
That is awesome. And it's one of those small world type of things where Bill and I knew each other, and then, we also, my wife and I also knew someone. We won't say her name on air because I don't have her permission, but we also had a friend, and then it's one of these small world type situations where we found out that our friend was actually in one of your classes.
Correct.
So
Yep.
that was kind of weird. So anyway, next.
I'm Liz Carper and my husband Todd Carper, and we got married on Valentine's Day along with my sister and her now husband. And we've been married 17 years now. Yep. Yes, it's 17.
Just not Todd. You say, yeah, that's right.
It is 17. I had to think for a minute.
And you are?
I'm Todd Carper.
And we met at work, so
Yes.
we met on shift work.
Okay, you should have stopped it that we got married on Valentine's Day. That was
Yeah.
good. Then you said we
Well,
met at
two
work. It's
interesting
not,
thoughts,
you
sorry.
lead. That's called you led with the good thing. If you wanted to say we met at work, you do that first, and then you close out with we got married on Valentine's Day. Just a little advice.
All
so.
right.
Time for you to introduce yourself.
You're right. I didn't, because I'm sitting here thinking as they're going through. It's okay. How long have we been married again? Okay, we got married in 1994. It's not that I don't know that. It's a matter of doing math. I just don't do math. What year is it again? It's 2019, right? But we haven't had our anniversary yet this year.
It's 25.
It's going to be 25 this year.
Yes.
So it's 24. So come August, then I'd better remember it's 25. I understand it's a big one, right?
Yes.
So,
Want to tell everybody how we met?
no.
Oh, now you have to tell.
I bet we got you beat.
We'll compare notes after the cameras aren't rolling.
Yeah,
We met in college. We'll leave it at that. So, all right. So let's move on from this uncomfortable situation right now.
Sounds like bleachers were involved.
So what I wanted to speak of, that's a great lead in. Thank you, my lovely wife, Mary Kay, for that. Because what I want to talk about is expectations. For starters, and we'll kind of see where the conversation goes from there. Because everybody here has been married for a good amount of time, and I'm sure there have been things that have arisen during the course of your marriage that did not go the way you thought they were going to go, and maybe some things that did. And so what I want to is kind of throw it out there, and whoever wants to talk first, but we can't. I don't want to use the cricket sound effect again, so please somebody chime in. Talk a little bit about, expectations versus reality, maybe, for people that might be watching that are just getting started in their marriage relationship.
We got married in 1966. There weren't a lot of self-help books out there about marriage. There was no, what's the one about?
Marriage Encounter?
No. Well, that's later.
The Men Are From Mars one.
Yeah, the men are from Mars, the women are from Venus.
Mhm.
There wasn't a book like, if I'd have read that before I got married, it would have saved a lot of fights.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, I've read that before I got married. I wouldn't have gotten married.
No, I've still gotten married. When we went for counseling with the pastor, I thought we were going to get something in depth, and all he said was, well, go out with your wife on a date once a week. That was about it. And we spent an hour with him, and there were no premarital quizzes or anything like that. I wish we'd had more premarital counseling, and we didn't. And I think that's important if you're engaged, and, so you find out your differences then, not after you're married.
I think with expectations was, I was married previously, so I think my expectation this time was, well, it's going to be better because I've learned, from the past, and it's not that it's better or it's not worse, it's different. So you're constantly learning, you're constantly, you're working with each other to try to make it better than, maybe than it was a year ago or 2 years ago. So.
Can I ask you a question about that? That's a really good point. And I there's a lot of people out there that are maybe in their second or multiple marriage. And I would imagine, and again, I kind of relying on, I'm curious what contributions you have to make about this or thoughts you have on this. Is that a struggle as far as constant comparisons? You have the expectations about what basically your first marriage was, whether good or bad. I mean, there's some people that had, first marriages that just didn't work out, and so that may cause some more hesitancy in going into another marriage. How do you kind of, I don't know what I'm not phrasing this right. How do you separate that somewhat and kind of realize, no, this is a new relationship, a different person. I can't be bringing all this baggage in from before.
Exactly. I don't do comparisons, and the only comparison I do make is my first marriage. Christ was not involved in too much, and now when I met Dee. And we got together and we started coming to Trinity, and we got married, and we said, the way we felt about God and His church was, divorce is not an option. So we're going to work it out, whatever we need to do to work it out. And it's been tested several times. I won't lie. I mean, it's mostly my fault.
Dee, you can chime in here. What examples you want to give?
She's holding back very well. I'll tell you that. It's been tested, and a lot of times it's my fault. And like I said, it's not that I compare or judging what I did before was wrong or not, but I just feel that with God being in the center of our home, I feel we have a better chance. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I think the biggest challenge for us was I was married as well, so I had a first marriage, and so coming into the marriage with Bill, and then we were having and expecting Megan, who's our first daughter, and so when we were originally together, you're on that high. You're in love, you're excited, it's new, it's fresh. And as you said, you start early on, almost comparing the relationship from prior, and then having a new baby, puts that challenge in there when we were newly married in a second marriage. So I would say early on, that was hard. But as Bill said, we kind of committed to each other that we knew the faults that we made in the marriages, our first marriages, and we didn't want to repeat them. So Trinity became such an anchor for our relationship and for our family as we've grown our family at Trinity.
And I think, and Todd and I have both been married as well. Our situation is that I had two young boys when we met. Our boys were 6 and 3 when we met. And no, 9 and 6 when we got married. So somewhere around
8
there.
and 5, I think.
They were young, but they
14 and 7. That's just
they're adults and they don't live at home, so we're not sure how old they are anymore sometimes. But we had that dynamic, but my boys live with their father. So we had the step parent and the brothers and sisters from that marriage going on at the same time. And then I introduced Todd to the group, and he was met with a whole bunch of challenges that I don't think he was expecting, but he took it on. He didn't shy away from it. But he became their father. And when they eventually moved back in with us, we were hit with a whole different kind of reality, because by then they were about teenagers, and we
Well, that
loved
was good fun.
we love teenagers. We love teenagers.
I'm sensing
but
the sarcasm a little bit.
just
in
a
your
little
tone there,
bit,
Todd. I
just
don't
a
know.
little bit. We had a rough patch. We told them we tell each other now that the light switch was off between 13 and 18, and we could do no right in front of them. And then 18, they both turned around and went, "Oh, you know what? I think you kind of knew what you were talking about." Just
Have
a
I
little
mentioned
bit.
I have a 16-year-old daughter? I have no idea
I
what you're
know.
talking about. So wait a minute.
Yeah.
I think the situation that you're in as you decide to get married, whether it's a previous bad experience or your first experience, it depends where you are when you make that decision, because I'm an only child. Therefore, our house had a mom, a dad, me, and my father's mother. And I went to school, I socialized, I dated, and when we decided to get married, I thought, the more the merrier. And I really didn't cognate about the sharing situation that needs to happen in a marriage. And with a previous marriage, I guess there's a lot of people who assume that the mistakes they had seen previously might be those they have to worry about now with this new one, but yet it's different, as Mr. Braun said. So it's a learning curve, and without Christ, I don't see anybody can survive, because the Lord made us so different, male and female, that there's no way you're not going to get into this thing and without maturing.
I think that when we were married to our previous spouses, just like you guys, church wasn't involved. We didn't go to church. And then when Todd and I got married, church became our center again. We grew up in the church. It's not that we didn't have Christ since we were little, but we went away from it. And it was coming together. We found Trinity, just like you guys. This is home. And I don't think our first marriages could have survived without Christ. And we know that that's one of the reasons why they didn't. But we know that we're stronger together because of him. So
We have a similar situation with you where I have, my previous marriage, I had 2 other children as well, and teenagers. So, with Dee and I in the relationship, it put a bigger burden on her because she did not have any children, and it was definitely a different lifestyle, or I don't know what do you want to call it, but it was just very challenging for her to come into that and to take that role as a stepmother that quick and that soon. So I think that also put a little burden on, us just getting started in our relationship, and of course eventually it works itself out, and now we have our own, and she's very familiar with that those teenage years.
In spite of the fact that we're the only non-divorced couple here.
Well, my wife and I haven't gotten divorced yet. She's just behind camera, in case you didn't
Well,
notice.
that's not my problem.
You guys been talking about something I don't know about, Bill?
Well, no, if you need a Stephen Minister, I'll help you. But anyway, when we first got married, of course, there was a pretty tremendous adjustment we had to manage, live through, and make happen. And I'll tell you what, if we hadn't found a church to be active in, we'd have probably gotten divorced. Because so many times prayer saved us.
Let me ask you, can I ask you all about that in a little bit more detail? Because I think that's a recurring theme we're seeing here through all, is that everybody here is saying, well, when we got Christ at the center of our marriage, that's what's helped us. And everybody's had different challenges, and that's something I think the people watching can take out of this, is that every relationship is going to have its own challenges, and they're going to be unique. What you're going through is not necessarily going to be what someone else is going through. But the common thread I think we're seeing so far is that everybody's saying, but we have Christ at the center of our relationship. And I'd like you to expand on that a little bit more as far as How has that made a difference? How has that helped you? You started mentioning prayer there a second ago, Bill, and I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's right.
But I want to kind of get that out there, maybe kind of shift the conversation that way. Exactly how has that helped you guys? What have you done?
For us, we did not get into the idea of whether I'm going to win this argument or she's going to make me lose that argument. Because we both were regular people who prayed, and we, at the beginning, did a lot of our praying individually, separately, and a lot of times my frustrations, misgivings, and to some degree anger was turned over to God rather than focused at her because she didn't agree with me. So God was, seriously, truly, was the center to whom each of us went when we had problems.
And when we were dating, I would have never married him if I didn't think he was a Christian. I really wouldn't have. That was the most important thing, is a relationship with Christ. But Bill wasn't as mature as a Christian when we got married. And we started going to a Presbyterian church, and then we started coming to Trinity after about 3 or 4 years of marriage. And it's not been smooth sailing. We've gone through pastoral counseling through the years because I had an infertility problem, so we didn't adopt our kids until we were married 5 years. And that it wasn't, how would you say, Bill was willing to adopt. There are some men that if I had married, they wouldn't have wanted to adopt a child. I'm adopted, but, Bill was, but his family was sort of anti-adoption. And he had to take on that burden of knowing his family did not exactly approve that we were going to adopt. But he did, and...
Well, you also mentioned that he wasn't, and none of us are, he wasn't as mature of a
No,
Christian
he
at the
wasn't.
time. And that made me think of something else that maybe we can touch on in the last few minutes we've got here, and that is that I don't think any of us are the same people today that we were when we first got married.
Thank God.
Amen. Yeah.
Wait a minute, are you saying that about yourself or about Todd?
Yes.
Goodness.
No, but seriously, but that's something that I think a lot of people, when they're going into a marriage, they don't really comprehend. They think it's, like, was it you, Dee, that was saying that you're having all these emotions, you're at the emotional high point, and you kind of expect that, this is how it's going to be forever. No, it's not.
No.
So what advice do you have as far as to people that, are just getting started, and make them understand it's not always going to be the same. You're going to grow, and how do you grow together? How do you stay committed to each other even as you mature more and change?
I think there always has to be compromise in the relationship, and there always has to be a give and a take. And I think you need to respect each other's differences. Accept the things that are the same, but respect the differences. We talked a little bit about the church, and my first husband and I were born and raised in the same church. Mm-hmm. And we were both very much involved, but I'll be honest, marrying young, I was just 20, and I didn't have that maturity. So while we grew up and were raised in the church, and we both came from very churched families, I thought that was the perfect thing. That was the perfect relationship. But soon enough found that I just wasn't mature and realized that my commitment wasn't there. And so when Bill and I got together, Bill didn't have church in his life. And I had strayed away because I thought this didn't work the first time, and I thought it was going to be perfect. And as we said, finding Trinity together, and you're on that high, you think things are great and we're having fun. But then when we came back to this and we became committed together, it took both of us to say, yeah, this is what we want as the center of our relationship and the center of our life, and we want Trinity to be the center of our children's lives, going forward. But again, we needed to mature together, and we both needed to get that commitment. And like you said, along the way, it's not easy. There are so many challenges. We both work full-time. Bill has his other job with DJing, so he's pulled out of the home a lot, my work schedule, kids' school schedules. And along the way, I think as partners, you realize that you're going to face tough times, but we have a whole family here. And whether it's our friends that we've made or, pastors that we've become close with, you have to realize that when you're in a tough spot, that there are resources that you can go to and get the help that you need. And I think you need to depend on the people that become your extended family beyond the blood relationships. And that is so important. So, for those new couples that are looking to get married, mature together, commit together, make sure that you can recognize each other's differences, and also just make sure that you understand there's people out there to reach to when you're having those tough times. Don't give up quickly. Don't give up easily.
Yeah, I think it's important to get connected to people here and your church, your pastors. They can definitely helped us before. We've had challenges, and this church is a family to us, and I feel as close to some of these people as I do to my own family.
I was speaking to my teenage daughter. Love you, Sarah. And I could say her name because she's been on the show before. And I'll embarrass her a little bit more and let her know. Anyway, hey, watch Jake and Gracie. It's every Saturday at 7 a.m. The voice of Gracie. Great. Anyway, no, but we were talking, I want to say it was last weekend, because not a big surprise. Lots of times after worship on Sundays, we have to stay late to film. Like, hey, newsflash, we're filming this on a Sunday afternoon, and so this is kind of our life. Now, our kids aren't with us today, but lots of times they're here with us when we're filming, and I think it was last week, she was saying, so what are we doing after worship today? And I was explaining, we actually, believe it or not, we don't have anything to film. We get to go home afterwards. She says, okay, so let me see. So what's going to happen is we're going to go to worship, and then you and Mom are going to talk to people for an hour, and then we're going to go home. She's being very tongue-in-cheek and joking about it, but I was like, well, yes, but it gave the opportunity to explain to her exactly what you guys were talking about. So you understand, it's not just us chit-chatting, wasting time for an hour. I mean, your church and your church family is just supposed to be that. I mean, they're your family. These are the people that we go through a lot together and that we can talk to about a lot of things. And so, we're going to be talking to them. But the understanding that is kind of what church is, what it should be. It's not just something you do for an hour on the weekends. It's a family. It's a relationship.
Yeah, Todd knows that after worship, doesn't matter what's going on. Our small group gathers in the front couple rows like we always sit in, and we're chit-chatting until somebody turns off the lights, and we won't
Usually
name.
Rick Grant.
I didn't want to name his name, but since you mentioned it, I'm sure he will understand. But that's where we get together. We talk about what's going to happen that day, or they make lunch plans, and Todd and I talk about how we're going to go home and watch whatever sport's on and take a nap, and that's about it.
So did you get Rick's permission to say his name?
He's been on the show before, too. I've teased him on the show on air, so hey.
And if not, we'll follow him with a camera around or something like
He doesn't. I don't think he watches the show, so he's not going to know I mentioned him anyway, so it's not that big of a deal.
Well, not only just about the church, I mean, the people in the church, but if you really sit and listen to any of the sermons, I mean, most of the time they're very convicting. They're very, like they're pointing right at me, and it helps with us, in our relationship, and say, man, was that right on or what? Right. I mean, and it makes you realize, okay, well, we're not the only ones going through this struggle. We're not the only ones having this issue. We've been given the recipe to fix it, and it usually has something to do with God's word. And being here and hearing the sermons that kind of really touch on those things helps a lot.
But you know what? It's not misery likes company, because we don't have a number of people walking in these doors Sundays or Saturday night with burdens and what ifs and nervousnesses about what's going to happen, and they've come to church to find somehow, some way, comfort. Going to church is an uplifting experience, even if you're walking in these doors on a high. Mm-hmm. Because church actually is like filling your spiritual gas tanks to endure the coming week and make you better able to serve Him and spread the word. Mm-hmm. It's as simple as that. So this is sort of like a spiritual filling station. Yeah. And the price doesn't change.
It's already been paid for.
So it's already been paid. Oh, nice one. We're going to close on that one because that was beautiful. So, all right. Hey, and this episode, it was still about marriage, but it almost sounded like it ended up being an advertisement for Trinity. That wasn't the intention, but it's basically how things work. And so what I'm going to say to people out there that are watching is, if you are local here to the greater metropolitan Baltimore area, and you're looking for a church, you can find us at 1100 Philadelphia Road in Joppa, Maryland. I'll put the address there on the screen. If you're not local here to the greater Baltimore metropolitan area, hopefully that some of what you've heard today can help you know what you should be looking for and what a church should be providing for you, what a church family should be like. So, especially when it comes to supporting your marriage. So, hey, if you did like this video, do me a favor, go ahead and click the like button. That's a thumbs up button right here on the YouTube page. Also, if you could, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can stay up to date on these videos and all the other videos we've got posted, including Jake and Gracie, just to throw another thing out there for my daughter. And we share this video. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are wondering, whether they're getting into a marriage or just wondering, hey, am I the only one going through this? Hopefully we've been able to impress upon you that no, you're not. The troubles that you're having, other people are going through troubles as well. And hopefully some of the thoughts here today can help you persevere and see your way through them and see the value of your inherent in your marriage and the way Christ sees it. Give us a like also on our Facebook page. We have a Facebook page here. It's Trinity Joppa Channel. Give us a like on there. We put some behind the scenes things on there, and you can give us some feedback about what kind of topics you'd like to see on future episodes. Next week, we are going to be back every Tuesday at noon. Next week, we are going to be welcoming Randy Gast. Mr. Gast is the new head of school here. For those of you that aren't as familiar with Trinity, we're not just a church. We also, one of our biggest ministries here is we have a early learning center, a elementary school, and a middle school here. And Randy Gast is going to be joining us here starting up in March as our new head of school. So he's agreed to come on the show, tell us a little bit about himself so we can get to know him a little bit. So please make sure you tune in next Tuesday at noon to learn all about Randy Gast. At this point in time, I'm going to say thank you very much to the wonderful guests. You guys were great. You were talkative, and I still think the cameras have a little bit of a deadening effect. I don't know. Some of the stories that we hear about Bill when the cameras are off, and notice I didn't say which one because it's both. They didn't come out while the cameras are rolling, so we'll have a little bit of fun after we turn things off. So thank you guys for coming on again. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you all for watching. God bless.
In your word we will follow.
Hey, if you haven't joined our Patreon yet, would you mind giving it your prayerful consideration? Patreon is a way you can support the Trinity Joppa YouTube channel. We've got multiple tiers to choose from, starting as low as $2 per month. Visit www.patreon.com/TrinityJoppa for all the details. Thank you. God bless.